Hello, my name is Pavel and welcome back to my channel. About a year ago, I made a video about a movie called Willy's Wonderland, and that was kind of like a rip-off of Five Nights at Freddy's. At the time, a Five Nights at Freddy's movie did not exist, and it does now, and I know it came out like 6 months ago or 7 months ago, and I still have not watched it. I'm always behind on like every big movie, and today I'm finally going to watch Five Nights at Freddy's. I need to be extremely honest and clear. I know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's. I do not understand the lore. I think I've played it like once. I don't know the character's name. I don't really know the story at all. I'm gonna guess it. I think it's about like a night security working at an animatronics place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, and he has to check the cameras and kind of like save himself from the animatronics killing him. I do not know if that's correct. Again, I know nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's, but today I'm finally watching it, and I'm kind of nervous. I'm nervous because if it's anything like Willy's Wonderland, that wasn't a great movie. But I do have high hopes for this, because if Willy's Wonderland was like down here, surely Five Nights at Freddy's is going to be all the way up here, because the budget's bigger, the acting is going to be bigger, and it's the actual Five Nights at Freddy's movie. So if the Willy's Wonderland movie was like, meh, surely the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is going to be absolutely incredible. So what are my expectations for this movie? I feel like there's going to be a lot of lore, a lot of references. I feel like there's going to be a few YouTubers in this that I'm not going to recognize, and I feel like the director definitely has a lot of pressure on her because, well, it's a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. This is a huge game. It's so popular, and making this into a movie, there's definitely a lot of pressure on you to, like, you know, do really well and actually make this movie great and engaging and have like a good reception for it, because as I said, Five Nights at Freddy's is extremely popular, and you know, my expectations are that it's going to be quite safe. I feel like the animatronics are going to look really good. They're also going to be creepy. I feel like we're going to get some good kills, and that it's going to be a lot better than Willy's Wonderland, which is what I said. I don't know. I know nothing about this movie. As I said, I'm going in blind, which may be good because I'm not really gonna like be biased and be like, well, they didn't reference this, they didn't have this YouTuber in here. Maybe it's bad because I'm not gonna understand some parts of the movie. Anyway, I'm gonna go watch Five Nights at Freddy's, and then I will talk about the movie after. So let's go. 1, 2, oh. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hello. I have finally watched Five Nights at Freddy's, and you know, the first thing I'm going to say is it's kind of impressive that Willy's Wonderland was a lot more exciting as a movie than Five Nights at Freddy's, because Willy's Wonderland was actually hectic. There was a lot of fighting scenes. It was just an absolute madness. But with this movie, Five Nights at Freddy's was just so boring, and whenever I started watching it, I didn't even realize it's like almost 2 hours long, and I was like, okay, you know what, if we have like a solid story, quite a lot of action, and if it's very engaging, then we're gonna have an incredible fun movie. Because obviously with Willy's Wonderland, the budget was really shit, you know, like the set was really garbage. So obviously with a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's, my expectations were a lot higher, because surely having a bigger budget, having a great name like Josh Hutcherson, hopefully I'm saying his name right, wait, let me check his name. Yes, Josh Hutcherson. Surely having like talent like that is going to make this movie really engaging, and it's just going to make something like Willy's Wonderland seem like down here, and Five Nights at Freddy's all the way up there. But no, that was, oh my gosh, I didn't go into this with like hate in my heart. I really wanted to like give this movie a try. I really wanted to like it, and it became like the most mid horror movie. I don't even know if you could even call this a horror movie. It became like the most movie of all time. But anyway, let's go through all my notes. Let's go through everything that I have, like what I want to say about this movie. And let's start off by reading the synopsis of Five Nights at Freddy's, which is directed by Emma Tammy, who is an incredible director because she directed the movie The Wind, which I really enjoyed. And it's actually mad to go from that to this. But anyway, so Five Nights at Freddy's synopsis reads: recently fired and desperate for work, a troubled young man named Mike agrees to take a position as a night security guard at an abandoned theme restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. But he soon discovers that nothing at Freddy's is what it seems. And as a concept, I was like, okay, this is going to be quite interesting, because if you can have like engaging like animatronics, and if you can like create real fears, then this is going to be a really solid movie. This started off with a security guard being chased out of like the pizzeria, and kind of like sitting down on a chair and having this like machine go up to his face, and I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get a little bit of gore. And the first thing I really need to say is that I do not understand any references here. I do not understand the lore. I know absolutely nothing about the history, nothing about Five Nights at Freddy's, and I need to make that extremely clear, because there's definitely a lot of references in this movie that I just did not understand. But you know, that can be a pro and a con. A pro can be that I'm just going into it blind and I can just enjoy it as a movie. But if I knew a lot more, maybe I'll get more references, but maybe that would have made me a little bit more critical of the movie. So hey, we can take it any way we want to. And this is actually Blumhouse's highest grossing movie of all time. I think it made like nearly $300 million, and that is absolutely insane, because I feel like the movie before it was like $130 million, which was Get Out. So obviously this movie was extremely popular. It did really well in the box office, and I believe that there's a sequel coming, because, well, at the end of this movie, spoiler, there's some sequel bait. So anyway, we're going to get to that. I feel like I'm really jumping the gun here. As I said, as a concept, I thought it was very interesting, and it obviously has a higher budget because it looks a lot better. So the first thing I really want to say, like, honestly, the thing that really carried the movie and actually made me not fall asleep for the 2 hours was Josh Hutcherson's performance. He is so good in this. You can tell that he's an extremely good actor, and with that, I really like the idea that there's like a brother and sister dynamic set up. You know, he's under the pressure to try provide for his sister, because there's like a custody battle going on between him and his aunt. She wants to take his sister away from him, and you know, she doesn't really have good intentions. She's just doing that because she just wants the money, and he actually really loves her, even though he's kind of coping with a lot of grief and guilt that's been happening for the last like 20 to 25 years, because whenever he was a kid, he watched his brother be abducted, and that's kind of like the crux of the story. That's kind of like what's going on with our main character, Mike. And as like, I thought, wow, we're going to explore this is going to be really interesting. It's going to be fun to see what sort of sacrifices he's going to make for his sister. And with that, you would think that that would just be like some of the story, right? Because like most of the story should be focused around the pizzeria, should be focused around, you know, the animatronics killing things and just an absolute madness. But no, that does not really happen. And what really is like the worst thing about this movie, like the thing that actually pains me, is the script. Usually I don't notice like bad scripts, like it's just not something that I'm kind of like drawn to notice. But oh my gosh, in this movie, it was just right in your face. We see these flashbacks, and we have like 7 or 8 or 9 where Mike sees his brother get captured, and he keeps going back into this like dream state to try understand who captured his brother. Okay, that sounds interesting or whatever, but oh my gosh, we as an audience are not stupid. We realize that he's like trying to understand who the killer is. You know, he's trying to cope with the guilt. He feels really bad, blah blah blah. It's very difficult for him. But then we see Mike speaking to a police officer who's just fucking randomly there. It's revealed later on why she's there, but I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't watched this movie. So he's talking to her, and the script is like, yes, my brother went missing, I miss him so bad. It's just the most boring fucking thing of all time. Sitting through these conversations, these things that just do not matter. Like, what the fuck does this really have to do with killer animatronics? Have you noticed that I've been talking for like 6 minutes and we still have not seen or mentioned or nothing about animatronics? No Freddy Fazbear, nothing, because this movie feels like it just does not center itself around the animatronics. Like, yes, we're there at times, but nothing really happens. We see them kind of like creep up and maybe kill a few people, which we don't see. Obviously, this is a kids movie, but that's fair. You know, this is kind of like aimed towards children. It's like PG-13. We can't really have that in the movie. But oh my gosh, it is so frustrating, because fucking hell, nothing happens in this movie. We see his kind of grief be explored. We see his aunt kind of want to take custody of the child, and at the actual pizzeria, it feels like nothing happens. He's just kind of like a security guard there. The animatronics dance a little bit, they kill a few people, which we don't see, and then Abby, his sister, has some of the worst performances ever. I know she's a child, but hey, there's a lot of child performances that are extremely incredible, and she kind of like engages with the animatronics, and we realize that within them are the ghosts of children that have been kidnapped by somebody. I'm not going to tell you by who, but it's actually within the animatronics. It's actually children's ghosts, and I was like, oh, cool. Maybe we're going to explore that. Maybe we're going to like see how they got there. Maybe we're going to like see what the process is of getting like the children into the animatronics. But no, we don't fucking see that. We focus more on that stupid guilt thing and these like dream sequences, and it's like, how do you make a movie so boring? You have so much money in this. You have just everything is in your favor, but it's just, oh my gosh, it's incredible because it's so shit. It's so bad. In the game, you have to kind of like check the cameras, turn on and off electricity to kind of like preserve electricity to kind of like try survive the night. But it feels like in this, they don't even have that. Like, you don't even see him like actively engage with the cameras and the doors and the windows or whatever, trying to kind of like protect himself. Like, I feel like that would have been a very interesting thing to explore, but we don't even get that. And that's like the basic premise of the game. I could be wrong, but that's what it is from what I understand. I feel like if they would have just kept most of the movie set in the pizzeria, gotten rid of all the stupid shit with like the aunt and the cop or whatever. Like, as I said earlier, I do like the idea of exploring grief. Like, I feel like that would have been like very interesting if they just kind of centered that, like he was having the dreams whilst working in the pizzeria and then discovering everything about the building, about the animatronics, and slowly understanding and slowly having to protect himself and his sister. That would have been so good. But whenever you have like a story that has just so many parts, it just makes it so diluted, and it just takes away from the main thing that you're coming to watch. Like, you're there to watch a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but you're not getting anything Five Nights at Freddy's. You're just getting like very basic storylines and very boring things that have absolutely nothing to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. And if I was to compare this to my own experiences, whenever I was a kid, I really loved Ben 10. And whenever the Ben 10 movie came out, I was like, oh my god, this is the best thing in the world. I absolutely love this. And if I was to watch Ben 10, the movie now, it would obviously be really bad. And I know this movie is not aimed for me, but if I was able to have like a semi-good time with Willy's Wonderland, surely with this, I would be able to have some fun. But I feel like this movie tries to play it so safe that there's no actual real fun in the movie. Like, we have this, like, it feels like the movie really just focuses on like the emotional side and the dealing with grief and the custody, and it kind of forgets that this movie is a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Like, it feels like they had the concept of the pizzeria and all the animatronics coming to life and being like villains, and then they were like, okay, we can't make a 2-hour movie out of this, so let's just come up with like extra little stories that we can throw in and just center around the character of Mike, and then we'll just sprinkle a little bit of Five Nights at Freddy's and some references that some people will understand. But if you have no idea what the fuck is going on, like me, you're just like, why is this guy seeing like this tiny little doll and getting scared and like going like, ah, blah, blah, blah. It just feels like, since there's so much lore in the actual games of Five Nights at Freddy's, that with this movie being extremely safe and extremely boring, I feel like they just took the name, gave it an extremely boring story, and didn't really explore that lore. Like, I know I understand that I don't know anything about those games, but I feel like, just from watching the movie, that it was just the most basic story ever. Isn't there like so many games? And the fact that they just made this story so basic almost feels like it's like a cash grab. Another positive I will say is that the animatronics in this look really good. From the clips I've seen from the game, I will give it props. The animatronics in this movie look extremely good. I really enjoyed it. I think they looked great, and I feel like obviously they don't move around, so it's kind of difficult to get them to engage in like killing and stuff like that, because again, they're animatronics. But they looked really good. I would have liked to watch them like, you know, actually fight and do stuff, but again, I know this is kind of like aimed at younger children, and there's probably like some restrictions where they couldn't do that, so that makes sense. But as a movie, as a horror movie, I guess is what this is meant to be, it's extremely disappointing. Nothing happens. It's not engaging, and it genuinely puts Willy's Wonderland on a pedestal, and I do not know how you mess up so bad. It's frustrating because I wanted this to work. Honestly, I did not go into this with hate in my heart. I really wanted to give this movie a try, and whenever he goes to like the pizzeria at the start, like up to there, I was really engaged because, you know, we get like the first dream sequence, and I'm like, okay, you know, we're processing grief, blah blah blah, whatever. And whenever he goes to the pizzeria, pizzeria, I was like, okay, wow, we're really getting somewhere. I know this is like a little bit slow, but maybe from here on, we're just going to be like focusing on the dream sequence and the pizzeria. But no, after that, the movie just becomes so boring. It's just fucking painful to watch, and I personally would not recommend this. It's, I did not enjoy this. If you can't tell, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. I have watched a lot better, but at the same time, I have watched a lot worse. What did you think of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? Let me know. I'm really curious. And what references did I miss? Because I know I definitely missed a lot of references, but I think that's everything I have to say about this movie. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.